My name is Jim Gierach, and I'm a speaker for LEAP. And I'm also a former prosecutor, so you better be good. It doesn't matter what drug you're speaking of, whether it's marijuana or harder drugs or the new drug that's coming around the corner tomorrow, the prohibition of them ends up with more of those drugs available, with people doing the wrong thing because they have the opportunity to make money because of laws of prohibition.
My name is Peter Christ. I'm a retired police captain from a suburb of the city of Buffalo, New York. I retired in 1989, and since I retired, I've been involved in drug policy reform. We're based on an organization that existed here in the States, and that was Vietnam Veterans Against the War. Now, why that was an important group was this. People didn't necessarily have to agree with their conclusion on the war, but that was one group who spoke out against that war who could not be accused of being unpatriotic or disloyal. This was made up of people who had gone and fought that war when asked to by their nation. They went. A lot of them were awarded medals for the things that they did there. And then they came back to tell the rest of us that they thought it was the wrong war at the wrong time. I felt that an organization of law enforcement people would have the same level of credibility. Those Vietnam veterans you couldn't dismiss as being disloyal, unpatriotic. Don't look at me and tell me I don't understand the drug problem. I spent 20 years out there fighting this drug war. I understand the problem. So again, you don't have to agree with my conclusion on the issue, but don't tell me it comes from some ivory tower and I don't know what it's like on the street. I know what it's like on the street, and I know how much harm we're doing to our society and to people within our society by using this policy. So that was kind of the root of the issue for LEAP.
My name is Terry Nelson. I am a member of LEAP, which is Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. I'm a 30-year veteran of the drug wars and a former federal officer. I'm now retired, and I'm speaking out against the drug war because I believe it's wrong.
My name is Howard Wooldridge from Fort Worth, Texas. I rode my horse across America twice, over 10,000 kilometers, to spread the message that the drug prohibition in America is a catastrophic failure. Well, I started law enforcement in the mid-70s, about 1975 to be exact, and I realized quickly that a lot of my colleagues were spending time looking for marijuana on personal amounts and not focusing on the true things that hurt people, like drunk drivers and people breaking into houses. And so it was very quickly I realized that this policy of drug prohibition was not increasing public safety, but rather decreasing it.
I'm Eleanor Shockett. I'm a retired circuit court judge from Miami-Dade County, Florida. Was elected twice and spent 2 years on the bench. And the reason that it joined LEAP is because their goals were the same as mine, to stop the harm caused by our drug policy in the United States, a policy that has proven itself to be a failure for over 80 years. It's time that we brought new ideas to the table and provided help, medical help. This is not a criminal issue. This is an artificially created criminal issue. It is really a mental health issue.
In Cook County, where I come from, 8 out of every 10 criminal that crosses the threshold into the prison is there for a drug charge. We have built a new prison every year in the state that I come from, Illinois. One new prison every year, to the point that we can't pay for schools. We can't pay for drug treatment. We can't pay for job programs. We can't provide health care. But we can lock more people up.
My name is Rusty White. I started in the Department of Corrections in 1973 to 78. I worked in Florence, Arizona, and on death row and maximum security. In 88 and 89 as a track attack dog handler and a narc dog handler, and I was on the weapons team. And the point I'd like you all to understand, there is not a prison on this planet, anywhere on this planet, that drugs have not been found in. We've got 40-foot walls, gun towers, every modern technology available to the world, snitches, no rights. You can strip anybody naked, you can tear their house apart, and yet we can't keep it out of a totally controlled environment. How you expect to keep it out of any country?
In Chicago, we have a fella named Al Capone, and he was in favor of the prohibition of alcohol. The reason he was in favor, even though that was his business, was because the prohibition of a substance is the foundation of the business. If Al Capone is in favor of alcohol prohibition, if Pablo Escobar is in favor of hard drugs, then why should good, sensible people be on the same side of the issue as the drug dealers? If you think about it, it makes no sense. As a lawyer, I know that what a judge will do is he'll realign the parties as their interests really appear. And it makes no sense for responsible, good people who care about their kids being in favor of prohibition just as the drug dealers who are at the top of the pyramid are in favor of it.
Prohibition did not work with alcohol. It will not work with narcotics, and it will not work with anything. You cannot prohibit your citizens from doing things that do not cause harm to others, only to themselves.
In 1933, we ended alcohol prohibition. Now, I always ask people if they believe that we ended alcohol prohibition in 33 because we surrendered. We just gave up. No, that isn't why we ended it. Did we end alcohol prohibition in 1933 because a new study came out that told us that alcohol was really good for us and that you should give it to your babies as soon as they're born? No, that didn't happen. And we certainly didn't end alcohol prohibition because we wanted to send a message to the children that it was okay to drink. That isn't the reason. It took us only 13 years to learn the lesson of prohibition that time, and that was Al Capone, who was one of the big gangsters in America during Prohibition, known throughout the world as the big prohibitionist. You can mention Al Capone in almost any country in the world, they know exactly who you're talking about. He was not created by alcohol. He was created when we chose a policy of prohibition over a policy of regulation and control to deal with our alcohol problem.
Why do we discriminate against drugs? Alcohol and tobacco cause more harm in this country than marijuana and cocaine.
The reason we believe it is that important to legalize all drugs, not try to break them down. You legalize all of them. Number one, there's only two choices in this world, and it doesn't matter what country you're in and what language you speak. Either the good guys, being the government, or the bad guys can control it.
We should use the word that fits. We shouldn't try to water it down. We shouldn't try and say decriminalize. If you decriminalize drugs, to me that means that you're not going to put people behind bars because they violate the law. But in fact, it still is going to leave an illegal market, which is what attracts people into the drug business. It's the money that drives the drug business.
Look at the true addiction to this. Look at the addiction to the cash cow that this policy is. You're coming to get me.
Legalize and regulating these drugs will again permit my profession to focus on bad guys, people hurting other people. It will cut our felony crime in half, as we've seen in Switzerland, where they have the heroin sales to their addicts are a couple dollars a day. It'll end the graft and corruption. And again, it's going to make American society better as we have a lot less crime, and then with the crime left, we can do a much better job. So we know this policy is going to improve the life of the cities and the barrios and the ghettos in America, because we will stop having people getting hurt and killed and shooting up entire neighborhoods in the name of drug prohibition. When all these drugs are sold in a state-regulated store, you are going to see a dramatic decrease in crime.